Okay, so we are officially live on our Facebook page. We'd like to call the meeting of the Old Colony Budget Subcommittee on June 15th, 2020 to order. And at this point in time, we would like to recognize those who are in attendance. Mr. Bob Marshall from the town of Lakeville, Mr. Maurice St. Amand from the town of Acushnet, Mr. Richard Gamache from the town of Mattapoisett, Mrs. Shirley Burke from the town of Rochester, Mr. Don Williams from the town of Carver, Mrs. Jolene Costa, Assistant to the Superintendent, Mrs. Sarah Griffith, our Business Manager, and Mr. John Parker, our Principal, and Aaron Polanski, Superintendent Director. First order of business for today's meeting is to begin with a nomination of the chairman for the Old Colony Budget Subcommittee. Do we have any nominations?
Mo, you still interested in serving?
If everybody wants me, that's fine.
So moved.
Second.
Nomination is made by Mr. Robert Marshall to name Mr. Maurice St. Amand the chairman, and seconded by Mr. Gamache. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Gamache?
Yes.
Mrs. Burke?
Still muted.
You're muted, Shirley.
Sorry about that. Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Who is also
You-
muted.
He's
He's
also
muted
muted.
too.
Hello, yes,
Thank you.
too many buttons.
That's okay. So we have Mr. St. Amand has been appointed our chairman. And at this point in time, with your permission, Mr. St. Amand, if you'd like, I will proceed with the agenda, or I could turn it over to you, whichever you prefer.
I could take it.
Okay.
I actually printed it all out so I could see it this time.
Oh, wonderful. That is great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we got looks like we just now have a presentation of economic response from Sarah. So you gotta unmute yourself, Sarah. You're gonna have to talk to us.
Share that document just so that folks can see it.
Hi, everyone.
Sarah,
Hey,
Hi,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Aaron, do you want to do this since it's
Sure, I could
your doc?
start.
Okay.
Sure. We have put together, myself, Mrs. Griffith, and Mr. Parker, with input from the administrative team, a presentation for the budget subcommittee to consider. And what we're looking at is the potential of a 1/12 budget, given the nature of our economic situation. And so what we would like to do is present these scenarios in the event of a budget shortfall, with hopes that our assessments will be approved by our member towns. But we do not know those outcomes yet, because many of our town meetings are either postponed or have not yet taken place. So given the anticipated reductions in Chapter 70 and transportation aid, we've put together this plan. In the event that our state aid is not funded to reflect our budget vote as of March 2020, we are recommending that excess and deficiency funds be used to replace state aid revenue in conjunction to some other pieces that we've put in place to hopefully alleviate the budget crisis that a multitude of schools are facing statewide. In our first scenario, we're looking at the pre-purchase of FY21 supplies and the materials to the tune of $246,000, and use of excess and deficiency in the amount of $129,000. And that would bring us to a total of $375,000, which equates to approximately a 10% reduction in Chapter 70 in transportation aid. In scenario 2, we've built what we hope would result in a savings of up to $750,000 through use of an additional $185,613 from excess and deficiency, the elimination of late buses with a cut of $45,000, a move to completely remote advisory meetings, which would result in a savings of approximately $7,000, adjustments in salaries due to new hires in the amount of $25,000, a cut to long-term. Yes, sir.
Aaron, adjustment due to new position hires. What does that mean exactly? That we're getting them in at less than what the previous person was paid?
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A cut to long-term vocational substitutes that we had proposed for off-site work. That cut would result in a savings of $40,500. The cut of a seasonal maintenance position, $21,753, and a restructuring of our substitute teaching budget with a proposed savings of $50,000.
Aaron,
Yes, sir.
the seasonal maintenance position, is that someone who is presently on staff?
That is correct.
Thank you.
The last tier, and our fingers are crossed, we hope that we do not end up in this position, but this would be in excess of the $750,000, is a reduction to sub-varsity athletic schedules in the amount of $9,000. The non-appointment of an assistant cross-country, assistant lacrosse, 9th grade baseball, 9th grade volleyball, and 9th grade basketball coach for a savings of $9,400. An additional reduction of athletic schedules and athletic transportation, cost of $19,000. The personnel staffing and cuts, that would include a paraprofessional, the savings of $24,000. Librarian, to be replaced with some type of coverage for a savings of $50,000. A custodian with a savings of $45,000, and a physical education instructor, the savings of $52,000. There would be additional cuts to the professional development budget in the amount of $25,000. And that would bring us to approximately just short of $1 million in cuts. Again, our hope is that we don't end up in a situation like this, but we feel as though it's our responsibility to plan using a tiered approach in an effort to try and meet the needs of a budget in such unpredictable and unprecedented times. I'd like to open the floor up to any questions if folks have questions.
So is 9th grade baseball, is that JVs?
No, that's a 9th grade program and not a JV program. We also have a JV program.
So you'll have a JV program too?
Yeah, the thought was that it would allow the freshmen could still try out for a JV program, but would not have a substantially separate freshman program as a result of that.
Okay. Okay.
To Sarah or Aaron, excess and deficiency, how quickly would we have to move to use excess and deficiency monies?
Sarah, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So part of the presentation today is actually a, number 4 is a recommended action for the budget subcommittee to bring adjusted revenue funding forward to the full school committee. This is actually on the agenda for Wednesday night's meeting, but it can't happen until the budget subcommittee takes a look at everything. So I don't know, do you want to skip to that section and we can talk about it a little bit? Or do we want to go over the FY20 budget first?
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Okay, we can talk about 21.
Okay.
So we would have to move quickly. We have to vote to use our certified FY19 certified excess and deficiency before June 30th, which is why I come to you all today and we put it on the agenda for Wednesday night's meeting. The recommendation has been to build for a potential reduction in state aid, so Chapter 70 and 71, and offset. In this case, it would be a portion of excess and deficiency and the remaining transportation reimbursement that we expect to receive in FY20 to be used towards FY21's budget. So to answer your question, we will have to make that decision today.
And Sarah, what happens if the reduction isn't 10%? I recently read something that said it might be a 7% reduction. Does any money that we would have taken from E&D, does that get returned to E&D?
Yes. So the way I have formatted the revenue source is basically an offset of 0. So if we are to receive the Chapter 70 aid, we will not use the E&D funding. We will build a balanced budget at whatever that reduction is in state aid, and we will not use the E&D funding if it is not as we have it written in the vote. In addition, I believe it's written in the vote that we're not to exceed.
The 129?
Yeah.
Okay.
That we won't exceed $314,000 in excess and deficiency. That leaves $150,000 left in excess and deficiency. So for now, I have built in the 10%, which is $278,902 of the E&D funding. So it's not at the cap, and we'll still leave more than $150,000 in excess and deficiency should we need to use this.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Well, there doesn't appear to be an awful lot of options for us. Just a comment. I mean, it's cut where we can and use our E&D.
Are we open to general questions, or are we
Go ahead,
continuing? Are we
You got a
continuing
question?
with the Sarah's?
Well, let's try to stick with this for now.
Okay.
If everybody's all set. So we need to take a vote on this.
Whoa, hang on. What exactly are we voting on, Mo?
I have no idea at this point. Thank you.
I can clarify. So the budget subcommittee would move to bring the adjusted revenue funding for the FY21 budget to the full school committee for a presentation and vote, as we
Okay.
do with our regular budget.
And I'm questioning, is there a reason why we have to do this now?
Yes, we have to do it now because we have to present it at the June school committee meeting before June 30th, or we cannot use these funds until our excess and deficiency is certified in the fall. So this is planning for next year's budget so that we have the funding sources should Chapter 70 and 71 be reduced.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm assuming if we're going to vote on this now, I have questions on the transfers that Sarah and Aaron have outlined here. Is now an appropriate time to go over those?
That's for this year's budget that we're ending.
It is, yes.
Yeah,
Do-
transfers from
that-
this year to next year.
We,
Nope.
no,
that-
transfers generally just need to be done in a regular meeting, a full meeting.
So, if I
I
may,
don't, I don't believe we have to take any action, do we, Sarah?
no action is to be taken on the transfers right now.
Right.
I
That's what I
wanted,
thought.
I wanted to present the transfers for the FY20 budget to the budget subcommittee. So everyone on the budget subcommittee could see what the plan is, hopefully, for this school year. So Mr. Marshall, the transfers that I have presented are the current year's financial outlook. So the current year, it is what we've appropriated, what we've expended. I presented this in a little bit of a different version than I normally do at this time of year, only because of the extent of the transfers. There are so many. So on the listing, you'll see the account number and the account description, appropriated amounts, which is the initial budget that the budget subcommittee set and brought to the full committee for FY20. What we've expended, what we have encumbered year to date, and what will, for salaries, bring us through the July and August months. What we have available in the lines remaining, where we are suggesting we transfer from, and where we are suggesting we transfer to. The purpose of these transfers is that when we stopped having school in March, so many things changed for what we thought we might spend money on. So for instance, the substitute line was no longer being spent. We had one-time savings on salaries that we would like to spend to prepare for next fiscal year if we can. We have travel and conferences remaining that we would like to reappropriate and spend. Transportation for late buses that we would like to reappropriate and spend. We also have stipends for athletics, commissioners' fees, and transportation for athletics that we would like to reappropriate and spend. We have transportation for field trips and events that did not take place in the spring that we are asking to reappropriate to spend, as well as facilities items, which you can see in program 088 if you go down that list, that we would like to reappropriate and spend to plan for next school year. We also have on the last page some savings in health insurance for active employees, taxes, payroll taxes, and retirees. So we are bringing these to the full school committee for a vote, but I thought as part of this conversation, it was important to talk about what's happening in FY20, which is that so many things have been frozen at this point and we haven't been operating. So what I'm asking the full school committee on Wednesday, and I thought was an important point here at this meeting, is to transfer funds from the accounts that we normally would spend funds in the spring to accounts that we can fund for things that we were set over budget on. And this is the really big point here, on page 2 of the transfer document, under function code 2420, which is the supplies for instruction, I'm asking to fund the remainder of the funds from FY20 to supplies for instruction so that we can facilitate a pre-purchase for next year, which will right from the beginning help with if we were to have our state funding cut for next year.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Bob.
Yeah, yes, that's what I thought, Sarah,
Okay.
and thank you for that clarification. So am I correct then, the transfers that we are suggesting we approve Wednesday night and looking for a vote here really are dependent to some degree on us approving the FY20 transfers. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you restate that question just so I understand it?
we're looking Wednesday night to take a vote on FY21 and the two different scenarios and so forth. However, is it not true that what you're recommending for those, for that vote really is dependent on us approving these transfers for supplies and other things in FY20?
It's actually probably the other way around. So the FY20 transfers will shape FY21's processes. So
that's what I thought I said.
yes, okay. So it helps us in knowing that if you approve the FY20 transfers, we will start from a place where we will have pre-purchased instructional supplies. Therefore, if the cut in state aid is 7% and that equals $253,000, we may not need to use any E&D funding, even though I am asking for the vote. And I hope that answered your question.
I think I understand that, and therefore I have questions, and I think they're probably going to be very easily and basically answered. I have questions about the FY20 transfers that you sent to us. And before we vote on anything impacting FY21, I'd like to ask those questions and get an answer.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with that as long as through the chair.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I noticed, or I think I noticed, that with such a short year of kids actually being in school, that we spent more than the appropriated amount in a number of categories, and then encumbered beyond the appropriated figure. I think we had AD salary, which I think I know the answer to. We had freshman and sophomore class advisors with no appropriated figure, very small money. And then the so-called being hired and money spent, a number of others. So let's start with, I think you answered one of my questions. The supplies you're looking to pre-order so that you're ahead of the game starting school year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, on the supply lines, if we can stick with 2424 a minute, and I can kind of go down the line there.
Yeah.
Okay. Science, we overspent for some furniture that we needed in science. That amount there, that $8,000 is really for, I think we did chairs and tables in science. Automotive, let's go down to automotive, $8,550. Unfortunately, automotive was not able to collect any more productivity. So, and I cannot allow automotive's productivity to go in a deficit balance. So that is the remaining funds that were charged to productivity, with the expectation that automotive would run. And I will have to make them whole for the end of the year. Let's see, and electrical, is that electrical? Yep, electrical. Slightly overspent again for instructions for supplies for instruction. Knowing that we would come here for this vote, they purchased a few items that they needed for instruction, which I said it was okay because we were coming here for this vote for it to be funded by the other lines in the budget that weren't being used. Then we have health careers. Health careers purchased mannequins. The mannequins will be used for next fiscal year should we not be able to go out to the nursing homes as we have. So basically for better instruction for next fiscal year. House and mill carpentry, that was technology, a laptop cart that I was going to charge to E&D. I am foregoing the funding from the excess and deficiency fund and asking that we reappropriate the current year's funds to fund that laptop cart. Business technology is a new program. They're actually splitting their budget with the program called Supplies Computer Science. So they are within the split off from computer science that
All right,
we.
hang on a second. Business, oh, I'm sorry, I see it. Yes,
Yep, do you
thank you.
see it? Okay. There's no budget for that. They just split off programs. And when we had done the budget, Bob, we had not split them to do the budget. So
Yeah.
what Bethany asked was, could we split the funding and they both use that $5,000? So they've done that.
Okay.
That's so that kind of sums up the supply account.
Okay,
The remainder, that $253,000, that's not been spent yet. That big number up there. At the
oh,
top.
yes, it hasn't been spent.
I haven't spent that yet. No, this is me asking you if you will let me do that. If you will let us as a school pre-purchase instructional supplies for next year.
Okay, all right,
Okay, so that's the supply function code.
yep.
Which one do you want to go to next?
Well, one of the areas that was actually a couple. First of all, I want to talk about the summer programs.
Yeah.
And I guess I have a question, not that I know that you can answer it yet, but given the fiscal situation in which we may find ourselves, or likely will find ourselves, should we even be considering having summer program? And maybe we should have some and not others, or maybe we should have them all, I don't know. But I do have questions about it.
Erin, do you want me to speak to that, or do you want to speak to the summer programming that Ms. Fay does?
You can start if you'd like, and then I can jump in because I know you've had some conversation.
So summer programming for our special education program is not necessarily the fun stuff, but more transitioning and keeping the students up to speed so that they're ready to either come back to school or that they're ready to be freshmen at Old Colony. And I know that Ms. Fay, who handles the special education program, has had to hire a nurse in the past. So actually, Mr. Marshall, the nurse is the most expensive piece of the summer programming.
Gotcha.
I don't know what that will look like this year, but I feel pretty confident to say that Ms. Fay will need to put some type of programming in place to help the students transition over the summer and continue to support them so that they can be on track for their academics in the fall.
Okay, so that is something that we want to do. It is not something that is required. Is that correct? By Desi or anyone?
I don't know if it's required.
It is not required.
Okay.
And in terms of our extended offerings, i.e. Summer Discovery, we actually put that aside for the year because it just wasn't viable to bring people into the building on a voluntary basis. Now that doesn't fall within the budget. That program is self-supporting. But I think it's important for people to understand that we're looking at whatever is necessary to make sure transitions are in place as our one and only focus. But otherwise, our intent is to really try and make sure that the building is not being utilized for much more than what is needed at this point, because there are so many uncertainties.
Right. So what else besides the SPED program would fall under summer programs?
Typically, it's Summer Discovery and any transition programs. So really, it would just be limited to special education and transition of the students. For instance, we did set some dates for our introduction of new students in late August. And we're hoping that we'll have that opportunity for some face-to-face time with our incoming students. But again, we're waiting for some more guidance from the department, which is scheduled for the week of June 22nd, at which point we'll be able to better prepare. Because right now we feel like we're aiming at a target we can't see.
Right.
So we're going to hold our fire until we can actually see a target and make some informed decisions, if that makes sense.
So Discovery is put aside, and we're talking about intro to new students and transitioning SPED students, correct?
That is correct.
any other summer programs that we're talking about?
Not that I can think of. Sarah, am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
What
Thank
about in MCAS remedial? Did we run that in the summer in past years?
We ran our transition programs, and there may have been pieces of that, but we also do pieces throughout the course of the year
Yes.
to assist students. And our new Edgenuity platform that we're looking at investing in for a smooth transition should there be another spike also has some MCAS remediation built into it that students will be able to participate in remotely, along with PSAT remote training. So we're confident that we'll be covering that base, though it may be in a different format that's inclusive of the program and platform that we're looking to utilize for transition to our mainstream academic program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Sarah, just to repeat, to make sure, at least I understand what you're saying, that $253,000 in supplies is how you will achieve scenario 1, the first bullet, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Any more questions?
Yeah. Now we've got some salaries that are beyond the appropriated figures, and some with encumbered money that brings them beyond appropriated figures. One of them I think I know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. The athletic director on page 3.
So the athletic director's salary is encumbered based on the school committee vote that took place in the spring, I believe.
For
of
the
last year.
adjustment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
That
that's all I
one-time
need.
adjustment.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then you go ahead, hit me with the next.
Yeah,
salary
I
column.
think, let me see, well, not all of these are salaries, but 3510,
Mhm.
5200, contracted services, winter,
Yes.
expended was greater than, did that have to do with attorneys?
Yes,
Tournaments?
it did. Yes.
I'm sorry, yes, okay. Right, athletic supplies, we already talked about that.
Mhm.
Now, 35205140,
Mhm.
and the next one, the freshman sophomore class advisor.
Yes.
I see nothing appropriated, small money in the expended. Am I just forgetting that we made?
No, you're not. You're not. So what
Oh.
happened was when the budget subcommittee created the FY21 budget, this was something that the principal asked us to bring forward as a request. And he said to me, can we add this into the budget going forward? I really think it's important for the students. And I think we all agreed as an administration it was important. So we actually added we have it in the FY21 budget. And I'm bringing it to the school committee to ask if that can be funded in the FY20 budget. Initially, we weren't going to need any transfers within the stipend function, that 5420, because the entire function code is not being overspent. So that is, kind of the principal saying, hey, can we support the freshmen and the sophomores in a different way than we have in the past?
Oh, okay. This has nothing to do with you, Sarah, or you, Aaron, and I won't get into a lot of detail. But
Okay.
a number of years ago, there was a much larger issue where a position got added, and it was, well, it was something like this, but the money was very different, very different. And I guess I'm asking, or I'm calling it to our attention, that in the future, I would like, if there are any new positions that are going to be created, small or large, that somehow or other the budget subcommittee and the full committee are aware of that and vote to approve it before the action is actually taken. Aaron, you remember a conversation you and I had a long time ago about this issue. Money was significantly different, and therefore I think the issue is different. But in my opinion, it's a matter of principle. Before we establish any positions, no matter how small, I would like us, A, to be aware of it, B, to vote on it, and then as a whole committee as well. That's my spiel. Any response, Aaron and Mo, anyone?
Understood. Fair,
Right.
understood.
And I can't seem to locate it right now, Sarah, but are there any other salary items that were expended beyond appropriation and/or encumbered beyond appropriation? I thought there
Sure.
were.
On page 1,
Okay.
under the salary function code 2305,
2305.
there are 1, 2,
There you go. Yep.
the English department and the computer science department.
And phys ed as well.
Let me see. Physical education is under budget. So physical education, there's an additional $12,900.
I'm sorry, I misread it. Yes.
It's okay. English department has had some turnover in the past few years. The $1,100 is from turnover and hiring. And the computer science department, I believe, is a lane change, the $1,400.
Okay.
Not known at budget time.
Right.
So that's why we're over encumbered there.
Very good. I'm all set then. Thank you very much.
You want to just pop down to the aides really quick? 2330 is the other
Yeah.
overage and
Sarah, yes.
salaries. Okay.
I would.
So again, special education aides, we've had some turnover with the paraprofessionals in the building, in addition to some need for, I believe, Aaron, you correct me if I'm wrong here, making sure that we had one-on-one support for some students. So that is based on need in the building at the time. And again, as Aaron has stated, it is one of the scenarios that we have looked into, you know, should we get deeper with the state aid cuts.
What was the last part of what you said, Sarah? Should we get what?
Should we have a deeper state aid cut?
Okay.
The paraprofessionals are one of the departments
Gotcha.
that we are looking to.
Sarah, where are we with transportation?
I am patiently waiting
Okay.
for the House and Senate to pass a bill that addresses quite a few concerns that have come up with COVID, including transportation contracts.
So
And it's-
we're waiting on state guidance.
I am. So I have those funds encumbered. Now that is on page 2 at the bottom, regular day transportation. I actually currently have our whole contract encumbered. And I did come to the school committee, I believe 2 months ago, and asked you all to amend our regional transportation reimbursement fund to also be able to include unspent appropriated funds. So those funds will flow to the unspent appropriated funds, if any, will flow to our transportation reimbursement fund at the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I
No,
appreciate it.
thank you, absolutely.
Oh, I'm all set.
Everybody else all set? Okay. So I guess we go on to the recommended action to vote on the budget subcommittee moves to bring the adjusted revenue funding for the FY21 budget to the full school committee for presentation and vote.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And I guess we'll have to take a roll call so we can make sure everybody gets counted here.
Motion was made by Shirley Burke, seconded by Bob Marshall. Mr. St. Amand,
Yes?
Mr. Gamache,
Yes,
and Mr. Williams.
He's muted.
You're muted, Don.
Yes.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Okay, so it's
Motion
unanimous.
passes unanimously.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't call me, Aaron, but I vote yes.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. When you seconded, and Shirley as well? Yep, thank you. I took the motion and second to be in support of the,
Yeah, you're right. Although in years past, not here, but in other venues, I've actually voted against my own motion. So,
sure. Well, that's a valid point. So I should probably reconsider the way I do that roll call. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone, for your support and your time this afternoon. I appreciate it.
thank you
Thank
for
you
your direct
I
answer,
saw
Sarah. I
Sarah.
appreciate it.
Any new business? Anybody? In that case, meeting's adjourned.